Welcome to the Laboratory Church, everyone. This Sunday is the 5th Sunday of the month, and so we are having our open lab, which is a special lab where we have guest speakers who talk about important topics that affect our lives. And today we have Nicole Watson from North Carolina, and she is here today to talk about her story and what caused her to be an expert in suicide prevention, having saved over, how many lives did you say? 2,000?
Yes, over 2K.
Over 2,000 lives. So I feel as a church, as we have gone through a pandemic and we have people who are suffering from mental health challenges, domestic violence, and all of the different things that just kind of take over our lives and help us feel alone, isolated, and helpless, I wanted to speak to, or have an expert speak to us about how we can keep our eyes open for warning signs within ourselves, our friends, our community, and so that we can add to the list of people who are being saved through her story. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to you, Nicole.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. I hope y'all are doing well. Hope everything is going great. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen in a minute, but first I'm going to tell my story. So my name is Nicole Watson. I save lives on social media.
Oh, awesome.
That's what I do.
Awesome.
Every day. So, a little bit about me. I am a suicide attempt survivor. I have attempted suicide over 22 times. I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder when I was 23, but I have something that is called treatment resistant depression, which means that most of the treatments that you would normally, give somebody like therapy and all that doesn't really work. It works in terms of helping me to cope and to be okay, but as far as like getting better, um it has not helped or whatever, which is so a little bit about me. My first suicide attempt was when I was 14 years old, and I grew up in the church. I grew up in the church, like worked in the church, did everything, all the church stuff that people do, right? However, one thing that I noticed about the church is that we tend to over spiritualize everything. And when it comes to mental health, we want to pray it away. We want to toxic positivity, think positive thoughts, and don't let the devil get in your mind. And so what happens is when we over spiritualize things like that, it causes the person who's going through it to live in denial, because you're telling me that I don't have enough faith. You're telling me that I don't trust God. You're telling me that I'm not doing the right things. So now let me pretend, so that you don't label me and say I have a demon, so that you don't disqualify me from working in ministry. Let me just pretend to be okay. So I learned at a very young age, I say young now, I was about 19. I learned how to pretend that I was okay. So I would go to church, and everybody would be getting words from God, and everybody would be, "Oh, I see this about you and I see that about you," but nobody ever saw the struggle that I was going through. And so, I learned how to mask it. I learned how to be so within myself that I could be about to jump off a bridge and nobody would know. I would come to church, I would praise God, I would sing, I would do everything I was supposed to do, because in church, you learn how to perform. You're literally conditioned to perform. Clap your hands. You know God has been good to you. Stand up on your feet. You should be, and this you just learn, how to perform. And so having said that, I learned how to perform. I learned how to mask it. I learned how to preach on top of it. I learned how to do everything. And here's something that I want you guys to really be aware of as we go into this quote unquote post pandemic world. And I say it like that because the way that we're being forced to move on is very unhuman and inhumane. We lost hundreds of thousands of people within the span of 365 days, and we are expected to, it's summertime, go outside, live your life, don't worry about what happened, it doesn't matter. That's not logical. And so, what we're seeing, we wonder why there have been more mass shootings in America than there have been days in 2021. And it's because people are snapping, people are not okay. And nobody is allowing people to be okay, to be not okay, because we live in a society where you have to be positive all the time. Positive vibes only. Positive vibes only is one of the most asinine expressions you could ever have, because even God Himself said, I created the person who's going to create the weapon that's going to be formed against you. It's not going to prosper, but even the person who creates the weapons that are formed against you, I created them. So for you to think that the only thing we can do is be positive really makes no sense, right? But we live in a society that is really denying us of our humanity and the ability to express what we believe to be negative emotions, right? So looking into, what's going on in society now, it's going to be very important for us as the church to really maximize relationships and to maximize being able to look at somebody and know that they're not okay, and most importantly, learning how to be a safe place for people. I'm gonna tell y'all a quick story and then I'm gonna get into the content of what I have to say, right? So I had a pastor, and I was going through a really hard mental time, like a really hard time, like one of them I don't want to get out of bed type times. And she said to me, and I quote, I'm really trying to understand you and your moods. You seem to be sad a lot. I don't understand, because weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. When is morning? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Now I'm laying in the bed planning to jump off a whole entire bridge into a body of water. Okay? Cuz I'm gone. My mind is out of here. You quote a scripture to me and put the responsibility of mourning coming on me. You make it my responsibility to turn my night into morning, right? And in the church, we have to be so careful that we don't become so fatigued of somebody's issue that we dismiss them and deny them the healing that they deserve. Because if we quote that children is healing is the children's bread, then healing is the children's bread. And we don't have the right to say how long somebody's process should take. We don't do that with people with physical illnesses. When somebody has cancer, they can fight cancer from 2005 to 2029, and ain't nobody gonna get tired of them having cancer. Nobody's gonna say, well, I thought the chemo was supposed to make you better. Why do you still have cancer? No, they're gonna say, oh, you're such a hero. You're so strong. You're so valiant. You're so amazing. But do you not understand that people who fight depression, like I know for me, sometimes it takes me 2 hours to get out of the bed. 2 hours. Then it takes me another hour to convince myself to do something with myself. Then it takes me another hour to convince myself that what I got up to convince myself to do is worth doing. So by now we're at 12 o'clock. So then I'm hungry. So it takes me an hour to convince myself that I'm worthy of food. Then it takes me an hour to go and get the food. So by now we're at 2 o'clock. So if I'm doing something that has to be done within business hours, I only have 3 hours left. So then I'm like, well, there's no point in working if I only have 3 hours left. I'm going to just go back to bed. And my whole day is gone. And so we have to remember, and we have to really be mindful that everybody is not going to be these little happy, perky Jesus people that you see on social media. Like that ain't reality for a lot of people. So I'm going to get into my content. So y'all, I'm gonna tell y'all a funny story right quick, right? So inside my soul, I'm laughing because when I got ready to do this presentation, I was gonna do a slideshow, right? And I'm like, oh my God, I need a slideshow because these people and I ain't never seen them before. And oh my God, and they're gonna think, honey, listen, I forgot that I wrote a whole book about suicide prevention and that I could literally just pull up the book that I wrote and teach from it. So here we go. Thank you for the clap. Okay, so I wrote this book. It's the ebook. It's called The Ultimate Suicide Prevention Guide. And it's all about suicide prevention. So amazing. This is me. I'm Nicole. I have a nonprofit called Not on My Watch. I also have the Conquer Tribe. The Conquer Tribe is my people who I have talked out of suicide because it doesn't like go away, right? So there are people who are going to have suicidal thoughts perpetually. So what I do in the Conquer Tribe is I teach them how to conquer them every day, right? It's so amazing. What I always tell people, number one, numero uno, hands down, you need to have the suicide prevention lifeline number in your phone. I'm gonna highlight it. It's right here. 800-273-8255. Now in the future, hopefully by next year or 2025 or 2050, I don't know. I think it's 2023 or 4 or 5 or something. I don't know. Um, the number is going to be 988. But until the number is 988, this is the number. Now, with the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, you can tell somebody to call. You can call with someone or you can call for someone. Because if you're on Bobo Memorial Highway and somebody's about to jump off a bridge, you need to be able to call and say, hey, look, somebody's about to jump off a bridge. I don't know what to do. And these people are so nice and so sweet and so wonderful, and they'll help you figure out what to do. Okay. Now, the other thing that I always tell people is that if you work with people who have suicidal ideation, one of the things that I always tell people to do, especially for teenagers, is download the Not Okay app. So the Not Okay app is an app where you literally can tell people when you're not okay. So you're sitting at home, you don't feel okay. You have these trusted contacts in your phone. And the people in your phone, when you hit the button to tell them that you're not okay, they get the notification that you're not okay and they can contact you or whatever your plan is. I always tell people, it's good to have a plan. When you just period, whether you're suicidal or not, because honestly, you can be on top of the world today and tomorrow something can happen and you be like, I don't even want to do this anymore. And so just knowing who your safe people are. I do this a lot. I really don't do the green checks because I kind of know. But as far as the red X's, like if you ever say anything disparaging to me about my mental health, you get a red X by your name because I need to know that in times of crisis, you're not somebody I need to call. You're not somebody whose call I need to answer. I need to protect myself. And the way you know that somebody is safe is if they let you state your feelings without invalidating you. Now, here's something that we do in the kingdom that we really don't need to do. So, if somebody comes to me and says, Nicole, I'm really feeling bad and I don't know, and I don't know, and I don't know what to do. And then I say, you'll be okay. That is invalidating because at that moment, they are not okay. I don't care that I will be okay. I need you to understand that right now at 6:58 p.m., I am not okay. I may be okay at 7:03. I may be. But the experience that I'm having right here in this moment is a not okay experience. And so we need to be careful that we're not telling people how they should feel, giving people lectures. Well, the Bible says Didn't ask you. Didn't ask you what it said. I got it in my phone. Didn't ask you that. I just need you to hear me. And the most important thing, safe people are people who point people to resources. In the church, we are so busy wanting to be Superman. We want to be Superman, Spider-Man. We want to be everybody, right? Instead of saying, okay, I don't really know nothing about single parenting because I don't have no kids. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna call my friend. Is it okay that I call my friend who's a single parent? And let's see how we can get you some advice from somebody who, we don't have to know how to do everything. And you do more harm than good sometimes, giving people advice from a situation that you're not really qualified to speak on, just because you heard your pastor, your friend, your favorite Bible app say it. So that's very important. Um, the other thing that I really want to talk about is safety plans. Now, in my ultimate suicide prevention guide, I have a safety plan. It's actually, I have it as a standalone too. But the safety plan is important because regardless of who you are, whether you're good or not, you need a plan. You need a plan just like you need a fire escape plan, you need a life insurance plan, you need a flood plan, you need a something happened to my car plan. We need plans, right? And so with the safety plan allows you and the people in your family to know what to do. So let's say you have somebody who struggles with depression. You need to know who are the three people this person trusts the most. And it may not be you. May not be you. Just because that's your son or your daughter, don't mean they trust you the most. They may trust their friends. They may trust their professors. And you have to be okay with that, right? So find three people that you trust. So then in the safety plan, in my particular safety plan, we talk about triggers. So what triggers you? And the reason that this is important is because hearing about spiritual abuse triggers me, right? So if I'm on social media and I hear about spiritual abuse, and then all of a sudden I'm upset and I'm just like really down in the dumps, people who know me know what triggers me. So they may say, Nicole, did you see something? What happened? And I may not be able to fully articulate it, but I can yes or no. I can blink twice for yes or no or whatever, right? And then warning signs. So when I don't feel like my best, I go on social media and I post long stories about what I've been through in my life and how unfair it is. I mean, I just go off, child. That's how people know, like, we need to check on the code because Lord have mercy, something wrong with the child, right? So then you also need to know who you can contact during a crisis and what's necessary to keep your environment safe. And here's what I mean by that. If you're going through a situation of like infidelity in your marriage, and every day you want to stab your husband because he cheated on you, when your mental health is trash, you may need to remove your husband, not kill him, but you may you may need to like move him like to another part of the house, or like, you know, move yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to know how do I keep my environment as safe as possible? That is so important. And that's something that we really need to think about. The other thing I tell people is you need to know what you like to do and who you like to be around. Because a lot of people who are suicidal, they go missing, right? So y'all have heard me say this is a pop quiz. In the time that I've been talking to you, I said every time that I have been suicidal, I have wanted to do what? Do y'all remember?
Jump off a bridge.
Jump off a bridge.
Okay.
So, God forbid, you wake up tomorrow and everybody on Twitter says, "Oh my God, Nicole is missing." And she posted this status yesterday. Your first thought is going to be go to where the bridges are, go to where the water is, because Nicole always said this is stuff you have to know about people, right? Especially if you're a pastor. I feel like this.
To make a phone call to a certain person that you got a green check to.
Say that again.
I think he was saying the answer to the question was if you say that about the bridge, to call someone who has a green check mark
Yes.
in your phone.
I'm
Is
sorry.
that what
I
you were
could
saying,
not hear.
Maurice? Well, he was breaking up a little bit too.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely do that. Definitely do that. And so this is what I think. I think if you're a pastor, everybody in your church should have a day where they do their safety plan, because stuff can happen. And so we need to know, like, how we gonna be, right? Then the other thing I have is common affirmations. And this is important because you need to know, like, how do you calm yourself down? So when I'm going through stuff, I say, I'm safe, I'm loved, I'm protected. I'm safe, I'm loved, I'm protected. I'm safe, I'm loved, I'm protected. Right. And a lot of times that will keep you from spazzing out when you're really going through. All right. So we all know what suicide is. My definition of suicide is the tragic end result of unresolved pain. Because for me, when people are suicidal, they want to kill the pain. They don't want to kill themselves, but since they can't separate themselves from the pain, they want to kill the pain. And that's why it's important not to say that people committed suicide, because that implies that they did something wrong, when in fact, suicide is the final stage of a mental illness. Because what happens is the brakes in your head and your amygdala, they don't work. So like if you have a baby and they touch a hot stove, right? People say sometimes you have to let them touch the hot stove so that they'll learn not to touch it. Because when they touch it and they get burned, it creates breaks in their brain. So the next time they go to touch the stove, the brake says, "Woo, wait a minute, child, because you remember the last time, Lord have mercy." And they don't do it. Well, when you have depression, a lot of times the brakes aren't there. So when you're like, "Oh my God, it's too much and I can't do it, and oh my God," there's nothing to stop you from ending it. And so saying committed suicide is kind of insensitive, because it's not that the person like literally committed an act. You know what I'm saying? They have an illness. Suicidal ideation does not always look the same. It can look, the happiest people in the world, like Robin Williams, can be suicidal, right? So here's some stats, and these are the stats. I'm going to give you the stats for y'all are in Indiana, right?
We're in Indiana, but Carol is in North Carolina and Maurice is in Missouri.
Okay.
So we're
Cool.
diverse, but
Cool.
Indiana's awesome.
Okay. So I'm in North Carolina. So I'll do all of them, because I mean we here on the Zoom.
Cool.
So in Indiana, suicide is the 10th leading cause of death, and there are 972 suicides every single year. Now, here's the thing that is so crazy to me, Nicole. 68% of communities in Indiana did not have enough mental health providers to serve residents in 2020. 2020 was literally the hardest year that any of us have ever had. Most of us, I ain't gonna say all of us. I don't know what kind of year y'all done had, but I know for a lot of people, 2020 was the hardest year. So imagine there being a group of people who are really suffering, who are really going through, who are really struggling, right? And 68% of those people can't even get access to mental health care. Where is that going to leave those people in 2021 when the world opens back up and now they have to go to work and now their kids have to go back to school and now there's no moratorium? So now they got to come up with all this rent money. What is going to happen? Right. And so let's look at, why am I scrolling the other way? Like, I don't know how to spell. All right. Let's look at, would you say Missouri? All right. So in Missouri, there were 1,141 suicides in a year. Missouri ranks a lot higher than Indiana. And in Missouri, 96.3% of communities did not have enough mental health providers to serve everybody. That is almost everyone. Now, here's the thing. If you remember, COVID hit Missouri really hard, right? So you got COVID going on. You got all these people dying by suicide. And 96.3% of people did not have enough mental health treatment available to them. Then there's my good old state of North Carolina that I love so much. We had 1,358 suicides in a year, and 86% of our communities did not have adequate mental health. Now, let's talk about why that's important. That's important because we tell people to go get therapy like that's something you can just do. Like, go to Walmart and get you some therapy. It's on aisle 13. You got to reach up. Somebody might have to get it for you, but just go get you some therapy. First of all, we got to have insurance. We got to make sure our insurance covers therapy, right? Then it ain't enough therapists. So you got to make sure there's a therapist that you can go to. So then you find one, but then there's a waiting list. So now you have one, but you can't see them until September, and it's May, right? But you still got to go to work, and stuff is still happening. School's about to open, and you got to, and they know, and all this stuff is going on, right? Then you get to the therapist, and here's what people don't know about therapists. Most therapists are not specifically trained in suicide prevention. They're trained in mental health disorders. They're not specifically trained in suicide prevention. And I'm going to tell you why that's important to know. Everybody who is suicidal does not need therapy as their first line of defense, okay? If my job laid me off and I have no money, and my children and I are about to be homeless, and I would rather kill myself and my children than to see us be homeless, therapy is not going to fix that. What's going to fix that is taking me to the housing authority, or taking me to a charity, or taking me somewhere to a homeless shelter where my problem can be solved, right? So here's a big thing that if y'all don't take away anything else from this, I want y'all to take this away. You have to be able to discern what somebody really needs, because everybody doesn't need to be plugged into therapy. People may need, if you're dealing with somebody who is taking care of their mother and their mother has Alzheimer's or dementia or whatever, right? And she's like, I just can't do it. I just want to go kill myself. She may need a support group. She may literally need you to go online to the elder care website and find her a support group. And in 2 weeks, her life could be totally different, because all she needed was a place where she could go and complain about her mama without being told, children need to obey their parents in the Lord, for this is right. She just needed somewhere to go talk about her mama. And now she don't want to kill herself because she has all these people who like, girl, yeah, my mama is crazy too. And I be wanting to fling my mama across the wall. And nobody's going to judge her because they understand. You see what I'm saying? And so please, y'all, like please make sure that when you are dealing with people, you don't just throw them into the therapy line. They may need the soup kitchen, honey. They may be hungry, and they may need some soup and some crackers and some bread, and they may just be okay. And God just come in and just feed this. I mean, because that's what Jesus did. Jesus was like, y'all, look, these people are hungry. And the disciples was like, well, you the Lord, like, why are you telling us? And Jesus was like, okay, I need y'all to feed these people. Like, what is your problem? Did you not learn anything from me? The people are hungry, And so I think in the church, it's very important that we really learn how to meet people's needs. Now, this is the last thing that I want to talk to y'all about, right? Because, so warning sign. I'm lying. I got 2 more things. God forgive me for lying. I got 2 more things. So this is the first thing. Warning signs. If somebody says they want to die, if somebody says they're looking for a way to kill themselves, if somebody says, oh my God, my life really doesn't have a purpose. I feel like I'm a burden to everybody. If somebody is sleeping a lot, not wanting to go nowhere, not wanting to be around anybody. If somebody is talking about getting people back, I want people to feel how I feel. I want people to feel the pain that I feel. It's safe to say that there's something going on there. And it's literally okay to walk up to your friend, your family member, and say, are you thinking about killing yourself? We like to say, you're not thinking about doing anything crazy, are you? But when you say that, in your mind, you're telling the person that if you don't answer that question satisfactorily, I'm going to be disappointed. So then they're not going to be honest and say, yes, I want to jump off a bridge. They're going to say, no, I'm good. Because in their mind, it's not crazy. It's just what they need to do. It's not good to say, oh, well, you don't want to hurt yourself, do you? Because somebody who wants to kill themselves doesn't want to hurt themselves. They want to kill themselves. They want to unalive themselves. And so definitely directly ask the question. And it's hard to do, right? It's hard to do, but do it. Don't tell the person they're being selfish, because they're not. They just want to stop hurting, just like the person who has cancer and they get tired of fighting and they take their last breath and everybody's like, oh my God, just like that. It's the same thing. They're tired of being in pain. Don't tell them you know what they're feeling, because you don't. Don't tell them they just want attention, because and you want attention too. That's why you post on social media. That's why you put makeup on. That's why you make sure your clothes match. That because you want attention. That's why when somebody asks you how you're doing, you tell them, because you want attention. You want people to pay attention to you. So even if they do want attention, so what? So do you. So does your mama, your dad, and your friends. Don't tell them you just need to pray about it. Don't tell them, well, that's just life. And oh my God, don't just don't. Okay. Because you need to make sure that people know that you are a safe person. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about is the different ways that you can get involved. So the AFSP is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. You can go to the AFSP website. You can become a field advocate and write the people in the government, tell them to pass these bills and these laws and stuff. You can volunteer for the AFSP. Yeah. So you can do that. You can also, at your church, you can have like a mental health resource station. If you're a pastor, you can get the certifications that I'm about to tell you about. And so the certifications, there's a few of them. There's Living Works. Living Works has a whole lot of certifications. There is mental health first aid. I always tell people, if you deal with people, you need CPR and you need mental health first aid. You need them, because you need to know how to keep somebody from dying of, I don't know, when you pass out. And yeah, you need to keep somebody from being able to do that. And you need to know mental health first aid, because both of them are important. So definitely do that. And then if you know someone who needs therapy and they don't have insurance or they can't afford it or whatever, right? Make sure you refer them to the Open Path Collective. The Open Path Collective, they charge you $59 up front, and they let you find your own therapist or multiple therapists for $30 to $60 per session. Most of the sessions that I've seen are like $35 or $45. So if somebody's coming to you saying, my mama died and I need grief counseling or whatever the case may be, definitely, and they don't have insurance or whatever, definitely refer them to Open Path, because Open Path is amazing. Yeah, I told y'all about the hotline. I told y'all about everything. Oh, and one more thing. For veterans, right? Veterans die at 1.5 times the rate of non-veterans. So if you have a veteran, take special care of them, because veterans don't get help even at the VA. People have killed themselves in the parking lot of the VA because the VA would not help them. People have gotten on Facebook Live and killed themselves at the VA. And I hate to be like that, but that's what happens. And so when you have a veteran, hand in hand them, walk them to the help and pass them off to the help. Don't just send them to the help, because they're so used to not being taken care of that if you just tell them to call a number, they're more than likely not going to do it. So just make sure if you're dealing with a veteran, call the crisis line with them. So that's all. I hope I helped you guys.
Definitely. That's excellent,
Oh,
excellent information. And
thank
can
you.
you put a link to where we could purchase your book
I can.
so that way people could have it on hand as well?
I can. And it actually comes with like videos. Like there's a whole video library. It comes with a lot of stuff.
Well,
Nice.
you see that grabmyguide.com. I'm saying that also for the people who would just be listening to it and don't have access to our chat right now. Thank you so much. And I
Thank
really
you.
like, he is actually a marriage and family therapist. So he deals with people who have, all these different issues, but I had never heard saying died by suicide rather than commit suicide, but it makes a lot of sense. So like some of the things that I said, oh, okay, you know what, I wouldn't have thought of that. And I did love your emphasis on meeting people's needs first, because I
Definitely.
totally agree with you. If someone is hungry or desperate, I mean, that makes perfect sense to deal with the issue first.
Absolutely.
Did you have any questions, Carol or Maurice?
How did you realize and accept your value as a social advocate? I mean, what caused that switch for you?
The fact that I didn't have anybody. So like when I was going through my worst times, nobody was speaking up about being suicidal, especially not no black people, just to keep it 100.
Right.
So just knowing that if I needed somebody, I'm sure other people need somebody. And just really seeing, let me tell y'all a quick story. In 2012, I was on social media and I was doing research on suicide prevention. God literally led me to this Facebook group where this girl had died by suicide, and one of her friends had commented and said, I was going to kill myself that night too. I didn't. I woke up the next morning and you were gone.
Mm.
The Holy Spirit told me to reach out to the girl. The girl was a child. She was 14. I was 20
Wow.
something. Facebook was a little different back then. Like there wasn't the message request folder or any of that. So my message went directly to her.
Right.
She responded to me, told me thank you. A few days go by, the other girl's funeral happens. I reach out to the girl again, reluctantly. Hey, I just want to check on you. I really hope everything's going well. God loves you. I hope you know that all that stuff, right? She sends me a message. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. She lives in Washington State. So it's like 11 or something there. She says, I got on Facebook to say goodbye to everybody, and I checked my messages and your message popped up. I said, what do you mean? She said, I was going to kill myself tonight, and I got on Facebook to say goodbye to everybody, and your message popped up. And I thought about it, and I thought about how we don't understand the power that we have. And we don't understand that every calculated choice we make, and every time we choose to obey God or not obey God, to reach out or not reach out, to make ourselves vulnerable or not make ourselves vulnerable, somebody's life could literally be on the line. And so realizing that and really seeing that is what has helped me to understand that what I do is valuable. It doesn't always feel valuable because it's not, oh, I'm gonna teach you how to get money. I'm gonna teach you how to get a man, so people aren't like, oh, suicide prevention. I want to learn about this. But knowing that this girl is alive today because I played a role. I ain't do it because I'm not the Lord, but I played a role, that's what gives me my this is amazing type feeling.
Mhm.
Yes, you are an instrument of healing.
Amen.
And I
Carol,
want to
do you?
acknowledge that. And then after Carol, I have one more unless Maurice has something.
Go ahead.
Go, Carol. No, go, Carol.
Okay. I guess what comes to frame, like, I know lots of people who have said that they're suicidal or have struggled with depression. My mom was actually one of those, and I kind of knew how to handle it with my mom. I don't always know how to handle things when it's a friend. One of my friends right now, she hasn't. I mean, we talk about it every so often, and she's saying she's fine now, and I'm gonna have to believe her. But like, I don't know what triggers her thoughts of suicide, and I've asked her about that. Like, I've tried, I'm never sure quite how to ask because it's kind of like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I have tried, like, we've talked about it a little bit. Like, I don't know about, where I've said things like, well, I don't know if you'd want to see this movie because it might be triggering or something like that. So we've talked about a little. She does not know what triggers her though. How do you work with around that when somebody doesn't know what their triggers are?
Some people aren't triggered by specific things. Sometimes it's nothing. Like if you have seasonal depression and you wake up and you see a cloud, that triggers you, but you don't intellectually know that it's the cloud. And so to me, if someone doesn't know what triggers them, then the only other thing they can know is what they need to do when they're triggered. So I don't know what triggered me. I just woke up and it fell out the sky and I feel horrible. With that knowledge, what is my next step? Because honestly, it could literally be nothing. It could be I dropped my spoon. And then the voice in your head is like, you're a failure. You're a terrible person. Oh my God, you're so stupid. You can't even make cereal. You don't intellectually know that that's what triggers you. You know what I mean? And so I would just say, make sure she has a plan in place and make sure that you're a safe person and not somebody who's like, well, what's wrong now? What triggered you this time? You know what I'm saying? And just give her the space to say,
Go ahead, Maurice.
All right. Well, how you doing, ma'am?
hey,
Good from you, and I love people that definitely hit this awareness because I've been living with this. I probably say I've had 2 years finally breaking out of it all and living better. But it was like 20 years from 16 to 36. Before all of that, I didn't feel like I belonged. Plus, I had a parent that would always call me stupid, dumb, all of the expletives off of even the littlest things like, I'm not really important. And that's what I went through. I felt like I didn't belong with my family. I felt like, what is the point of me being here? Even though God always showed me why, I still shunned it away and I let the devil play more of a role in my mentality than I did. So at 16 years old, there was once upon a time in Michigan City, Indiana, that I tried to stab myself with a barbecue prong in the kitchen. I talked to my cousin yesterday because he's the one that walked in. He's the reason why I'm living these 22 years, 38 right now. There's a lot of triggers with it. It's because I basically doubted myself. And in 2019, it was great things, movie premiere, but then a bad thing happened. And it was like God telling me, do I really want to go? Because I still was feeling that way. I got hit by a tornado in my apartment complex. So I seen all the rubble. And it was basically God telling me, do you really want to go? And I'm like, no, I don't. This was like finally the moment was telling me that I don't want to leave because I felt like I missed my opportunity. My cousin walked in on me. Like I wanted to do it again, but I just never wanted that. But something always came along that made me want to live. Like my grandfather later on 8 years ago was my daughters, meeting their mother. But I still shunned it away. And I didn't really care about life. Like I am a nonchalant person, but I was more nonchalant to myself than I was to really anything else. Like I really didn't care. you know, and then I was kind of taking advantage of being enabled, of being spoiled, and I was just dying. But then there was once upon a then what happened, I would say either, I think it was last year, I ended up getting this beat that Great Thaddeus he made for me. And it was kind of the song that actually spoke to me, that made me like really put it all out there, be as vulnerable as I can be. And it really, and when I used to have certain episodes, I would listen to that song. And because I make music, it was probably one of the best medicines I think I've ever had, probably from any therapist, anybody that can talk to me. You know, when people, I don't know how everybody feel, but what I see in my own, it feels like when people are suicidal, even if they get all the love, the birthday presents, gift, they still feel like they don't belong. They feel like they don't matter to anybody. They will let anything, to the point of a person not answering their phone call. Mm-hmm. Oh man, I don't matter. Now I'm gonna go and drink or take some pills just off a little phone call. Mm-hmm. I've been through that. Never taken pills, but I felt like that. Mm-hmm. So I think that I love that there's people out there, you know, that's really speaking about this, that have also experienced these type of things. So that's basically what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank
you. That's big, bro.
And we love you.
Yeah. Oh, I love y'all too.
And we
y'all,
love you.
We glad,
but
you
I finally
successful. Yes, sir.
Mentally, I finally love mentally, because you know, Thaddeus and Amy already know they love me, but I just didn't appreciate it because I didn't love myself. I didn't even care, you know, and I know they love me, you know what I mean? Like I knew it, but then I would let the devil tell me, nah, they really don't. Remember this, remember that. And I'm like, that's false. How you gonna tell me that? But then I'm still in my own head. Now I know when people tell me they love me, I love myself, so I can really appreciate it so much more. I have these many conversations with y'all too about this, I'm saying it almost every day because I want to be as consistent as I can be to say my mentality is much more stronger than it has been. And it's really been 2 years, and I'm so happy that I have these 2 years to really lean upon, rather than still wondering why this and why that. Yeah.
Well, I did want to ask you one more thing, because you mentioned this person jumping off the bridge, but one of the things that you did was you asked them permission. Was it okay to call for some help? And first of all, I wholeheartedly believe in that approach. And second of all, I wonder if they said no, right? If they were triggered by that request, if they, you know, in their determination, how do you handle something like that?
So this is where I firmly believe that God steps in and does what we cannot do. Mm-hmm. One thing that I always tell people, my nickname is the life snatcher, because I will literally snatch you. Like, I don't care what you say. If you call me or if I come across you, then I know that you're not supposed to die. That's literally why I'm here. It's what I do, right? So I've had that happen before, where people are like, leave me alone. Leave me the alone, right? In that moment, I tell them, I'm not talking to that part of you. I'm talking to the part of you that wants to stay here. Because all of you don't want to be gone. Because if all of you wanted to be gone, then your body would just stop working. Because you know, I'm speaking to the part of you that wants to stay. So from there, I say something like, let me just do this for the part of you that wants to stay. How about that? Because you have to know have y'all heard the story of Kevin Hines?
No.
Y'all.
Tell us. Enlighten us.
Kevin Hines is this dude who attempted suicide. Okay? He tried to jump. He did not try to jump. I am lying on this man. He jumped off of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Mm.
He jumped off of it.
Mm.
Oh, hold on. He jumped off of it. So he's on the bridge and he's really upset. And he's like, I want to do this. And he's crying. He's crying. He's crying. And he's like, if somebody just comes up to me and asks me how I'm doing, I won't jump. He's boohoo crying in public in California. Lady walks up to him. He's crying. Lady walks up to him and says, can you take our picture? He's crying. Can you take our picture? He takes the picture. She says, thank you. Walks off. A lady is driving on the bridge and she sees him go over. Her friend is in the Coast Guard. Okay. Coast Guard is in the area doing Coast Guard stuff. Turns around, heads that way.
Mm.
There is an animal, a seal, the Loch Ness monster. I don't know what it was. There's an animal that gets up underneath Kevin and keeps his body afloat. This man jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. Only 2% of people who jump off the Golden Gate Bridge survive.
Right.
He jumps off the bridge. The little animal, the Coast Guard person finds him. He's alive. He's one of the greatest suicide prevention advocates, people of all time.
Okay.
And I say that to say we don't need to underestimate the power of speaking to the part of somebody that wants to live. Because this man was on the Golden Gate Bridge and he said to himself, he didn't say if somebody gives me a prophecy, he didn't say if somebody gives me money. He literally said, if somebody just shows me enough decency to ask me how I'm doing, I won't do it. And so sometimes you have to bypass the part of the person that's saying, I don't want to do it. And you have to acknowledge it and say, I understand what you're saying. I get it. This world, child, this world is a lot. But just for a moment, I want to do something for the part of you, that little itty bitty part, because I know it's in there. I want to do something for that part. And then if you approach it that way, a lot of times that'll soften them up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
And
really
then, I mean, you just do it anyway, but most of the time, honestly, people really don't want to go.
Yeah.
So if you show up on the scene and you know, they know you for real and you're not a person with a red X, it goes a lot better than most people think.
Yeah.
I was glad that you said that the person is not selfish, because I've had, suicidal thoughts in my life in the past because of some horrible things that I was going through. And part of the horrible thing that I was going through was I was being beaten down and told that I was a burden and that I was the cause of other people's suffering. And so, yes, that was a hateful voice that I should not have listened to, but that voice kind of became internalized inside of me to where I thought, well, if I kill myself, then I'm actually not hurting anybody. I'm stopping from hurting them. I'm no longer a burden to the whole world, and I'm not this, thing that they said I am. And so in a way, it felt like the voice was telling me, if you kill yourself, you will actually make the world a better place. And so then you have to kind of have a voice that stops you. And I was in therapy even. So, working through it. But then the thing that I said in therapy, which I was really surprised by how the person reacted, is I said, well, honestly, the only thing keeping me from killing myself at this point is I feel like I will fail at it. And then I will just be like a quadriplegic depressed person, and I'll be even more of a burden, or I'll be this. And the therapist said, that's a really dark motivation to not kill yourself, but if it works, that is the only thing that matters.
Y'all, I'm gonna tell y'all a story right quick. This is for real. Y'all want to know why I really want to kill myself?
Yes,
What if you get reincarnated, right?
girl.
And then,
Yeah,
like, as soon as it's over,
you go right
and
back.
you're like, oh, I did it. Then you're like, wait a minute, I'm back. Because, they say that when you're reincarnated, for the first few years of your life, you know who you were. So the thought of, then I got to start over from zero,
Mm-mm.
I'm going to just ride it out.
See what happens.
It's funny because that you say that, because my thought when you talked about the brother jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge and surviving
Mhm.
was that, number one, he was a very hurt person when he hit that water, because that's like hitting wet cement.
It broke most of his bones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Ugh,
Yeah.
the
And
recovery.
then you get up from that, and then you go and serve this type of purpose. So he is literally the person that he wanted to actually meet on the bridge.
Yep.
That person was inside of him the whole time.
That's it right there. Yep.
And he could look in the mirror and see the person and not see the person at the same time.
That is so powerful. That's the word. Ooh,
My
that's
husband
real.
preaches too. Just
Listen.
unofficially.
It's amazing, the self-deception.
It is. I mean, and then like I answered a call to ministry and, did all this amazing stuff after. I'm so glad that I didn't listen to those voices. I mean, I wouldn't do it nowadays. I have moments of depression, but I understand now how much I have to live for and how many people actually really do love me, even when I'm not being lovable.
Woo. I know that's right, because, honey, that not lovableness be a lot sometimes.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this has been an awesome talk. And
Mhm.
I'm so glad that I met you on Twitter, Nicole.
Me
I've
too.
always you shine through on Twitter. I told him a long time ago, I'm like, Nicole, I'm gonna get her to speak at our church one day.
Really?
I did. And then I was
Wow.
waiting for the opportunity. And I'm like, you know what? This is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's the 5th Sunday. I'm like, okay, now is the time. And when you said yes, I was like, yay.
I'm always down for a good conversation.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's a good conversation.
Thank y'all.